Good evening everyone, and I welcome you to this live session on this MOOC online course on water society and sustainability. And first of all, I would like to thank you all for showing your interest in this course and for getting enrolled in this course. And now I am available for the next 1 hour, I guess, to address some of the questions that I would be raising right now. I also have 2-3 very interesting queries by some of you who are enrolled for this course, and maybe I can start this live session by addressing the queries that I have already received, followed up by the queries that now are going to be generated by some of you. So, the first question that is from Peter Chandran is a very interesting question about, so he asked me to define the word sustainability related to society, and then the next part of the question is how water sustains society. So, the first part of the question is he has asked me to define sustainability related to society. So, now I find this very provocative, because like whenever we hear this word sustainability, the immediate thing that comes to our mind is sustainable development, because to a great extent we associate sustainability with sustainable development concept, which was formulated in 1992 in the Brundtland report, and which generate a kind of a caution that like we are to a great extent facilitating economic growth at a global scale, but our environmental needs and our environmental requirements are getting challenged. So, is there a way that this balance can be met? So, the idea was that we should not consume ecological resources in such a way that our next generation are not left with ecological resources. So, that was the idea, that we will development or economic growth should not be halted, but at the same time the ecological resource base should also be kept in mind, taken into consideration, so that the saturation point or the saturation boundary is not transgressed. So, this is the idea about sustainable development, but what I would like to say is that I would like to draw your attention to the fundamental concept of sustainability, which was manifested in the initial doctrines of Karl Marx. Now, very quickly I would like to talk about ecological Marxism, because there is a very interesting debate. Initially Karl Marx was charged with the idea that in his philosophy or in his writings he had never discussed ecology. But then John Bellamy Foster from the University of Oregon, and who was widely published from the monthly review press, he wrote a book called Marx's Ecology, and in that particular book he talked about Marx's ideas on sustainability, and there Karl Marx discussed that the two greatest contradictions that we are facing in the modern era are the contradictions between labor and capital, and also between man and nature. And these two are also overlapping, and they are definitely related. So, Karl Marx's suggestion was that we should not believe ourselves to be the consumers and only consumers, and also we should not believe ourselves to be the owners of ecology or ecological resources. We should perceive ourselves not as owners, but as stewards of the ecological base or resource. So, this idea of stewardship is directly related to sustainability, because if we understand that we are not the consumers, only consumers and owners, but we are someone who need to take care of the ecology, we need to extract from ecology to to accomplish our daily needs, but at the same time we must understand that we do not have any ownership about relating to these ecological resources. So, it should go on to the next generation. So, we have the right and we have the duty actually to protect the ecological base. So, I think this idea of stewardship that long back was talked about by Karl Marx, and from where ecological Marxism actually had its beginning, is very important if we really need to understand sustainability in its best possible manner, because sustainable development, the much later one 1992 sustainable development concept, is also it has been criticized by the critical social social science scholars like for example Arturo Escobar or Andre Gunder Frank or many other people. So, there is a very interesting article by Carlos J. Castro called Sustainable Development Mainstream and Critical Perspectives, which was published in Organization and Environment in 2001, and I would like you to go through that article where you would understand the problems or the limitations that are there, so far as the sustainability concept has been defined since that Brundtland Development Report sustainable development idea or argument. Rather, I would provoke you to go back to Marx, to go back to, for example, many other ecological thinkers even before Marx, because Marx was highly influenced by Justus von Liebig. So, please go through those ideas to understand what sustainability actually is, to understand the essence, to have a grip and grasp on the essence of sustainability. Now, relating to the second question of how water sustains society, I think that this has been to a great extent discussed in the lectures, most importantly the lecture on the hydrosociality or hydrosocial cycle, because this course to a great extent it tried to give the strong message about how we should not perceive water or society either as subject or object, but we should try to understand the cyclical, mutual and reciprocal relationship or interlinkages between water and society. So, how water and society make and remake each other across space and time. So, it is not only that water sustains society, but it is also society sustains water, and the cyclical relationship goes on, or it is going on since time immemorial, right. So, the very core message or core component of this course is that we need to understand water, we need to perceive water beyond H2O, because we do not want to abstract water from political, social, cultural components. So, this question about how water sustains society, if we take a historical view, if we try to understand the cultural aspects, if we look it from the political economic imperatives perspective, we would definitely understand that water has sustained society since time immemorial, since the days of our ancient civilization, since the days of antiquity. Just think about the river Nile and the Egyptian civilization, think about the Indus River and the IVC civilization, think about the Tigris Euphrates and the Mesopotamian civilization. So, all this we already know. So, water has sustained the society, but again the society has also crafted lot of interventions on water, and that again had generated ramifications on society. So, this cyclical relation is going on forever and ever. So, this is how water and society are related. So, the way, if we have an understanding about what should be the do's and don'ts, I mean I do not want to put it in a linear manner, but still we have we now know about the series of interventions on water and its social impact. So, I think that we have to be little more careful to perceive water. We have to have a larger, more comprehensive and inclusive understanding of water. Then we will be able to understand the the kind of relationship or the kind of embeddedness that is there between water and society to address the larger issue or goal of sustainability. So, hope I have to an extent addressed your question, but before I keep on talking, I think I will take one question from okay, so it says that there is some problem in the website, and so are there other questions by why? Because okay, so you do you find people waiting and raising questions? But okay, so there is some problem with the website for which we are not being able to receive questions right now. So, I will take this opportunity to move on to the next question that had already been raised previously in the live session query platform. So, the second question is by Sai Tulasi, and the question is all about in which way this course will lead an individual to change accordingly to the society. This is also a very a kind of a provocative question, because so this is a direct question again, that so this is a very important question in the sense that whenever we are learning a course, whenever we are getting enrolled in a course, whether it is an online course or whether it is an offline course or whether whatever we are doing, first two things happen. One is that we have certain objectives, we have some agendas which we need to accomplish, and the second is that our agendas or our objectives to a great extent have to be related to the rationale and relevance of the course. So, we really need to, so I am now giving a technical answer, but then this would be followed by my political point of view. So, first let me provide the technical answer to this question, that how should we map or assess the importance of a course, and think about that when I have finished completing this course, and I also have the certificate because I have successfully completed it. So, then what kind of things are expected from me? So, here what you need to do is that before you get enrolled to any course, online, offline, whatever, you need to find out the relation between your research objectives and also the rationale or relevance of the course. So, from that perspective, I think anyone and everyone who are bothered about the water society relationship, who are bothered about who are bothered to know that why are we having so many problems in terms of water access, in terms of water quantity, in terms of water quality all over the world. So, this course though it is to a great extent restricted to the South Asian context and more specifically the Indian context, but still I think we have discussed the theoretical frameworks where I have given examples from other global contexts as well. So, I think like water is a burning question in our recent times. So, it is a burning question, and water is not only water, but water is also land, water is also so many other things, water is also emotions, water is also water is tamed, water is untamed, water is manufactured, water is natural. So, it is a very kind of a complex entity that has several components enmeshed in it as a composite whole. So, it is very important for us to understand each and every attribute if we want to really capture or if we want to have a better understanding of what are challenges that the world is facing today. Because we need to raise this question that we are so much advanced these days in terms of technology, there is no dearth of technical means or techniques through which crisis can be addressed, but still why are we not being able to manage this crisis? So, does the answer lie only in the demographic statistics? Because if you ask someone that why we are facing ecological crisis, the immediate answer that would come is that because our population is increasing. But I think to a great extent this course has been able to make you understand that it is not only so the question, the relation between environment and population is always not directly proportional. Yes, population is a factor, of course population is a factor, this demand supply relationships are extremely important, but at the same time there are other things, most importantly the mode of production that we are encountering. What kind of mode of production? So, are we in the capitalist mode of production? Are we in the phase of finance capitalism? Are we in the phase of agrarian capitalism? Are we in the phase of global capitalism? So, which mode of production of the society we are now? So, that becomes extremely important, that becomes imperative. So, that sets the context for us to understand that why we are encountering ecological crisis, challenges, and more importantly water crisis. So, I think first whoever will be completing this course successfully would have grip on this theoretical knowledge and theoretical understanding that we need to understand water challenges, or for that matter any form of ecological challenges beyond the quantity perspective or beyond the availability perspective. We also need to understand the politics of access. So, the distributional politics, that becomes very, very important. So, I think one who would finish this course would have an understanding of this theoretical grounding. And the second thing I think is that if you are young, I am not going to actually stigmatize and create this binary between young and old, but anyway, if you are enthusiastic, you are passionate enough, I think then this theoretical grounding, this theoretical knowledge would then provoke you, push you to really come up with innovative mechanisms or innovative ideas through which I would not directly say that changes can be crafted, but I think at least series of interventions can be thought of in an innovative manner which are beyond the mainstream series of interventions, which will give you immense satiety that yes, through these changes can be crafted even at micro scales. So, I think this course to a great extent offers this opportunity of making you theoretically knowledgeable about water society relation, and also if you have that fire in you, if you have that enthusiasm, if you have the passion, you will be definitely at a better age to come up with more innovative mechanisms through which you can implement in your research, through which your theories or your theoretical knowledge can get transformed or transcended into action research. So, yes, I think I have answered this, and then there are two queries. I do not understand it properly because these are not questions, but Ranjit Rai has just written Bihar. So, I really do not understand much that what do you want to know about Bihar, but then very quickly let me reflect on Bihar, because Bihar is a state in India which has a very a very strong history relating to floods, not droughts much, but floods, of course. And immediately when we think about Bihar, and immediately when we think about water crisis or water challenges in Bihar, immediately we think about the Kosi river, and how every year, every monsoons, the Kosi river it inundates its banks, and it generates lot of implications, ecological, both ecological and social. So, I think if you have attended this these lectures on water technologies or water techniques in ancient India, then I have covered a part on Bihar where I discussed about the ahar pine system. So, this ahar pine technique or ahar pine system was extremely prevalent in Bihar, and I think it was more prevalent in South Bihar. So, there is also there are some works which had been done, for example, by people like Nirmal Sengupta, but later there are also works by Dinesh Mishra and Eklavya, who show that how this ahar pine system was very fruitful. You to go to the website of Make Pine Abhiyan and to know more about how they are managing Kosi floods. So, then Gujarat same, like Bihar also, in Gujarat also there were very interesting, not ahar pine, but other forms of water technologies which were in tune to the weather conditions, soil fertility and all other local specificities of Gujarat. Same thing happened like in Western India also, but this is an interesting point, because on Western India we do not have much work by historians of water, because if you see the water historiography, you will find there are a lot of works, there is ample literature in terms of North India, South India and Eastern India, but Western India is still an unexplored area, both Western and Central. So, now few people are doing, for example, one of my research scholars, he is now looking into the water history of Bundelkhand. So, similarly we need more and more works on Gujarat, but I mean, if I just put a kind of a straitjacket interpretation, I would like to say that Gujarat was also not an exceptional state which did not visualize this entire trajectory between pre-colonial equilibrium and colonial hydrology. So, but we need more and more research on Western India, including Gujarat, Rajasthan and also Central India, including MP. Yeah. So, yes. So, I have one question from Ganesh. So, he says, like he says that this year all over India we face drought. Why do you think? Now, yes, you are right, because this year as per the data, like India is facing almost 70 to 80% rainfall deficit. Yes, so this is the reality. Now, how can we explain this? If you ask hydrologists, if you ask natural scientists, if you ask meteorologists, they would definitely tell you that we have already entered into the era of the Anthropocene. So, which means global environmental change, and this is a period of uncertainty. So, this is a period of uncertainty, and I think uncertainty and volatility, these two things make the whole experience or the whole scenario extremely complex. So, why things are happening in a way things are happening now, we do not have a linear straitjacket answers to this. I can assure you neither social scientists nor natural scientists can come up with one line answer to a question like this, that why India is facing drought. We have to understand this within the larger context of the kind of climatic, I will not say climate change, but I will say climatic climatic fluctuations and climatic perturbations that are taking place. So, in some areas we are having drought, in some areas we are having floods, in some areas we are having other kinds of natural disasters, right. So, it is an entire era of uncertainty and volatility, and many policymakers are saying that as we cannot control nature, as we cannot control these climatic perturbations, so it is more important for us, to maybe to increase the resilience of the society or the communities. So, like uncertainty and volatility is leading to fragility among societies or among communities. So, policymakers are more now interested to reduce this fragility question, so that at least if not mitigation, some adaptation strategies or measures can be chalked out to face this crisis or to respond to this crisis at least for a short span of time. So, yes, so there cannot be any straight answer to like why India is facing more droughts this year, but what I would say is that you have to put it within the larger context of the era of the Anthropocene. So, I have next another question from Polomi, and she is asking about post-neoliberal projects. Yes, in the works of Adriana Allen. Thank you for raising this question, because Adriana is one of my mentors, and I have really enjoyed working with her a lot. And you now, you have already injected some nostalgia in me when I see this name Adriana Allen on this blue piece of paper, then definitely a lot of things, lot of memories and moments immediately appear on my cognitive domain. Now, coming to the point, you are asking about the post neoliberal projects. So, it is important to understand what is this post neoliberal period is all about. Adriana has worked a lot on the global south, and she has focused on the African cities, because for example, she had a project on Dar es Salaam and Tanzania, and she also had a project on, because this was also part of one of our overlapping projects. So, her students have worked on Latin America. So, she is herself from Latin America, she is an Argentinian. So, they have worked in these global southern contexts. So, where neoliberal and post neoliberal make a lot of sense. Now, very quickly, if I try to address your question, for example, neoliberal. So, there is this period of which is famous as LPG, which means liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Okay, and you can find the roots of this LPG since the post Second World War period. Okay, when like all these transnational corporations, like which is also known as the unholy trinity by Richard Pitt, for example, like WTO, World Trade Organization, the World Bank, and IMF, International Monetary Fund, when they started providing loans, to the other countries, to the global south for that matter, and the justification for providing these development loans was that these part of the world is quote unquote underdeveloped. Okay. So, it became imminent to develop, to make this global south develop following the developmental models or following the development aspirations of the global south. And immediately, this binary between the global north and global south was crafted, and so after a particular point of time, it was then realized that what is happening in the name of development in the global south is actually development, but it is development of underdevelopment. So, I am using Andre Gunderfrank's term, so where he uses this phrase called development of underdevelopment. So, then what happened is that then I talked about the mode of production, right, very briefly. So, it is very important for us to understand this mode of production where we are right now. So, the mode of production that we are encountering right now. So, the current mode of production is of course global capitalism, and capitalism is a very interesting system, because always the capitalists or within capitalism new innovative policies and strategies are chalked out and implement to sustain the capitalist system in the best way possible. So, there is always a tussle, right, and what happens is that immediately, like when this World Bank development goals and World Bank agendas were falling short, and there was a kind of an era of disillusionment, because many researchers including journalists, like for example, I remember the name of Catherine Caulfield, and she wrote a book called Masters of Illusion. So, she told that World Bank is nothing but it is a master in creating illusion. So, when this became very apparent in front of the world, then they came up with again new strategies through which they would be able to justify their investments, they would be able to justify the ways they were interested to give loans to the countries of the global south at huge rates of interest. Right. So, within this context, the post-neoliberal projects were formulated, conceptualized, formulated and implemented. And for example, when you are talking about Adriana Allen, definitely I think that you are talking about those peri-urban, Latin American sites, for example, peri-urban, the periphery of the periphery of Cochabamba, or the periphery of other South American cities, the periphery of Dar es Salaam, the periphery of several other African cities, where big investment projects, most importantly water sanitation projects, water networks were implemented. But that also led to number of problems, and to a great extent whether those could actually address or solve the water crisis is a big question that Adriana Allen raises. But very quickly, like I would also like to say that Adriana, if you have read Adriana talks about policy driven interventions and needs driven interventions. So, she says that where we find very much lot of problems associated with this post neoliberal water sanitation projects, and I think Eric Singedu had also discussed about all this, because Eric Singedu had also focused on South America. So, so they say mainly Allen says that where these policy interventions fail, where sometimes we have also seen that this sometimes not most of the times that this private or this privatized water networks or this privatization component has failed, largely failed, then how the water user committees, the several other peri-urban communities, the way they have come up with local innovation becomes a lesson to learn. So, I would encourage you to also get more information or get more enriched by also looking into their circles where they have where they have talked about policy driven interventions and needs driven coping mechanism, and how and why these mechanisms are functioning properly and systematically in some of the peri-urban sites. Yeah. So, Polomi has again asked another question: can the Swonk diagram of Rebecca Cameron be implemented in Indian society with minimum modifications? So, again I would not give you a straightforward answer, because social scientists just 2 days back I was attending one lecture where one resource person very beautifully pointed out that the scientists, while they try to make complex things simple, the social scientists try to make simple things complex. So, I am not going to give you a very simple answer on this, because I want you to think, and I am sure you will come up with a very interesting answer on this, and definitely I will keep this in mind, and definitely we are going to discuss this in the forum, because I want you to reply on this. But I would give you a clue, and I would say that the idea that social scientists make simple thing complex is not true, because we are living in a complex world order. We really need to understand this. The reason why big technologies are not being able to meet our societal problems is the fact that big technologies have not taken into consideration these multi-layered interdependent complexities. So, it is very important for us to understand that each and every geographical site has its own context. For example, Cape Town has its own context, Cape Town has its own history, Cape Town has its own geography, Cape Town has its own cultural values, norms, governance, institutional mechanisms, right. So, I do not think, I personally will not encourage an idea of coming up with a model for other areas by just implementing or imposing it from a particular spatial site. So, for example, what is true about Cape Town, or the way Sankey diagram has been able to capture variables relating to Cape Town, maybe it will not be able to draw appropriate variables if the exact Swanky diagram is followed for other cities, like for example, even Durban, take another South African city, maybe it will not work. But then models are important, Swanky diagram is important. Why? Because it provides us with directions through which variables, or through which ideas and flows can get consolidated into the preparation of a particular model. So, I want this discussion to go on, and I am very happy that I have raised this question, and I definitely need your reflections on this, and we would continue this in the forum. So, then Ganesh has also asked my opinion about Amazon fires. What do I opine? Tell me, like lot of things are on fires, few fires you can see, few fires you cannot, and so what is happening is that if you just forget about anything else, even if you have a Facebook account and if you follow just the Facebook post, you will find number of opinions about these Amazon fires. But what I would like to, and you know very well, what is right, what is wrong, and again there cannot be one single answer to this. But what is important is that we have to a great extent, affected the metabolism, the metabolic relationship between nature and society. This is one of the fundamental things that I want to raise, because if you have to have an understanding about ecological resources, challenges relating to ecological resources, but and even potentials, like how we can better access ecological resources in a sustainable way, I think it is very important for us to first understand and then respect the metabolic relationship or interlinkage and the feedback loops between nature and culture. So, once that metabolism gets disrupted, and once we move, or we have already moved from this metabolism to metabolic rift, then definitely tsunamis of 2006, Amazon fires 2019, many other incidents in between, and even local incidents, like for example, a lot of cyclones. If you just take coastal Orissa, or if you just take coastal Bengal, lot of cyclones, all these things can be explained in terms of this disruption in the metabolic relationship, or this transformation from metabolism to metabolic rift between nature and society that had already started since the neoliberal, more importantly the neoliberal period, but very concretely from this period or era of global capitalism. Yes. So, there is another question by Rashtra Gaurav, what caused Chennai to run out of water? What can be done? So, again like if you see the cities, most importantly the metropolitan cities like Chennai, like Bangalore, like Kolkata, like Delhi, this is a very common scenario, and you have seen that like the Niti Aayog report has totally shown that how by 2020 all these cities are going to run out of water, and we are already facing the brunt of it. There are many reasons. There are many reasons that why Chennai actually ran out of water. There are few general reasons that can be applicable across different cities of India, across the Indian urban palimpsests, but there are also specific reasons to this. Now, may I ask you, may I take this bold step of asking you to go through a reference and come back to me at the forum, and then we can have deeper discussions about it, because I want to also I want you to read some of the materials, because as you are so much interested about water society sustainability, I would take this advantage of requesting you to read one particular book chapter, and I take this I just let me make a promise at this live session that I will send you this book chapter, okay, because otherwise it is not accessible, it's not an open access chapter, but I will send you the this book chapter by email. So, this book chapter is by Coelho and Raman, right. They have written a very interesting book chapter on Chennai's waterscapes, and they have shown that how how Chennai is struggling in protecting her waterscapes. So, and how the state, under the aegis of the transnational corporations, they are twisting and twigging the the waterscape sometimes into durable landscapes, sometimes into areas which can be immediately reclaimed and real estate can come up, sometimes in fill the areas where the squatter people can be dumped. So how Chennai since the last 4 or 5 decades, how what are the equations that are being played by the political actors creating a lot of change within Chennai's waterscape, that is not only creating a lot of drinking water crisis for Chennai, but also making Chennai extremely flood vulnerable and flood prone. And we know that every monsoons what is happening in Chennai, like what is happening in Kolkata and Mumbai. So I would really ask you to read that book chapter on Chennai's waterscape by Coelho and Raman. So it came out in the 2013 book, which is an edited book by Annie Radmacher and K. Shivaramakrishnan. Just give me a reminder and I am going to send you this email and we can have further discussions on this. So there is a question by Shonjib Das, what can be done from geography with water technology? A lot. Geography is a very important subject, and I would say it is an umbrella discipline, because as I am not a student of geography and always I have scored low in my exams when I was a student, I should confess, but definitely now when I am trying to do a little bit of transdisciplinary water research, I know that what role geography and geographers can play and what they are already playing. Just take the example of Kuntala Lahiri Dutt, again one of my, I am one of her great admirers. So take her example. So the kind of methods and the kind of theories or concepts that she had formulated since the last 2-3 decades are extremely radical, and they are path breaking and they are cutting edge. For example, Kuntala Di talks about this land water binary, right, in water research, that we need to go beyond this land water binary and we need to think about these hybrid spaces. So she has talked about hybridity. Now a lot of interesting and new researches are being taken forward on hybridity. For example, we are also doing some research on what we call fluid governance. This is a part of our ongoing research project which involves geographers. Of course, geographers like René Veron, who is from urban geography, and geographers like Emmanuel Reynard and Stuart Lane, who are critical physical geographers. And I am sure you already know by now about critical physical geography, that how critical physical geography is even a step forward from political ecology, because political ecology help you understand the politics, and critical physical geographers, they promise that they are going to bring changes. Okay. So they are more interested in action research, right? And when these geographers who have lot of understanding about geomorphology, who have lot of understanding about hydrology, who has lot of understanding about lot of the physical elements that we do not understand as social scientists, which is very important for water research, I think we really need to learn a lot from geography and geographers, because I think there is a wide range of concepts that have been evolved and that have come up to us in water research from geographers, including critical physical geography, including soft geography, including even some of the formulations in social anthropology had been enriched from the geographers like Professor Lahiri Dutt. So yes, geography can really play a very important role. And you talked about water technology. So once we have this theoretical knowledge, once we know that every landscape cannot be defined as well knit as or every landscape cannot be compartmentalized as either land or water. So immediately when you have that understanding, then the kind of technologies that would evolve from this understanding would be a different one from the kind of a technology that will evolve from the understanding that there is compartmentalization between land and water. So if you have that theoretical and conceptual notion and understanding and perspective, that will definitely influence and determine changing water technologies. So yes. So, I have another question for Polomi. Is the community water projects by central government in Rajasthan etc. yeah, be considered as legitimization of co-production mechanism that was indicated in Allen's water wheel? Yes. So, I have again raised an interesting question. Co-production is a very important term these days. And so, it is not only limited to co-production, but there are some other concepts which are directly related to co-production. So, before co-production, first what is important is co-learning, right, and after co-production what is important is co-management. So, these three things come together: co-learning, co-production and co-management. And Adriana she really has emphasized a lot on co-production. So, which means that all these different sectors have to come together to co-produce something. Okay. So, in the water sector, maybe for example, I will give you an example. So, you are asking me about Rajasthan, I will give you the Kolkata example. In Kolkata, we find a brilliant mechanism of how wastewater and I do not know whether because it is going to be lecture 19 I guess. So, maybe you have not we are not still in lecture 19 because it is scheduled for third week or fourth week I guess. So, very quickly when you go through lecture 19 I think it will be more clear, but now very quickly I will say that for example, Kolkata has a fascinating system of fisheries, small scale fisheries, by recycling the wastewater that is generated from the Kolkata Municipal Corporation. So, every day the KMC generates 750 million liters of wastewater, and this wastewater is utilized by the local fishers and they in turn generate fish, which is like 22 tons of fish is produced per fish varieties are produced per day, and 150 tons of vegetables are produced per day. So, you can understand this amazing production mechanism through the recycling of wastewater, which involves lot of like low cost and cost effective, which means cost effective small scale folk technology, right. Now, there is a tendency among the media persons and also sometimes among the activists that this is totally locally owned and locally managed, but this is not right, because when KMC is involved, you can understand that of course the government, of course the municipality is involved in this whole game. So, and this is also very important to recognize the involvement and participation of the various actors coming from bureaucracy, coming from technocracy, coming from other direct policy making circles, coming from civil society organizations, coming from community based organizations, coming from the locals. So, what is our idea? Our idea is to understand the complexities in a collective manner and to come up with changes which would be beneficial for all across generations, and then only the issue of sustainability can be addressed in the best manner possible, right. Our idea is not to just not to stigmatize different actors. Like I am an activist, for example. So, hypothetically I am an activist and I am supporting the community based organization CBO, which means that I will be anti-state. Today now, this is a strong message which I want to provide right now, is that today the kind of crisis that we are suffering from, environmental, the kind of water challenges that we are suffering from, we cannot keep on to a great extent facilitate the conflicts that are there among various actors and stakeholders. Rather, it is important for us to really emphasize, to first recognize the role and roles and responsibilities and involvement of the various actors and users in a particular scene. For example, in any water scene, as you are talking about community water projects in Rajasthan, which is being funded by the central government, but where the community are also playing a key role. So, yes, co-learning, co-production, co-management in the best manner possible. If this can be implemented, then definitely to a great extent some of the challenges can be met. So, Jannavi, how can we reduce basic water usage? So, this is very important. We have to change our mindset at the very beginning, and this is also like I will problematize this, because basic water usage, it means you are talking about water footprint, right. So, how can we have control on the water footprint? So, very interestingly, there are now softwares which can be downloaded from the web, from where you can actually assess and measure your daily water footprint. So, if you are interested, you can do that, and this can be done technically. So, you can start measuring it, you can start doing it. For example, today or maybe from tomorrow, you measure your water footprint per day. So, what will be your water footprint just for tomorrow. Then you continue this exercise for a month and just try to see whether your water footprint has increased or decreased, or whether it is remaining the same. So, everyone can do this, number one. Number two is that so this any adult, educated, motivated person with access to internet or with access to applications, with access to software, who are tech savvy can do. But there are larger issues involved in it, that is why political ecology again becomes a very important framework, because like for example, just take Kolkata's example. In Kolkata, amazingly, Kolkata is I think the only city in the world where there is no water tax in that sense, right. So, you can just waste water as you would like to waste, right, and if there is no tax, if there is no regressive tariff, then what happens is that you can have no control on your water usage. So, what happens is that in Kolkata, while like the squatters and slums, they suffer from the daily requirements of water needs, daily requirements of water for accomplishing their basic activities, like cooking, like washing, drinking, etc. On the other hand, we have like in central Kolkata, we have the big households, the rich households actually, the rich houses where lot of water, drinking water is wasted just for washing cars. So, how do we deal with this? So, this is just an example, but there can be other examples. I have talked about Sainath and how Sainath how Sainath makes us more sensitive to what he calls manufactured scarcity. So, it is not about availability, it is about how scarcity is actually being manufactured. So, he gives the example of like how when Maharashtra or the villagers in the rural provinces of Maharashtra are committing suicide due to decline in agricultural productivity, which is directly linked to availability of water for irrigation and for agricultural needs. On the other hand, in the same year, Mumbai hosted the IPL, and just calculate the gallons or the liters of water which was wasted for keeping the IPL field green. So, it is like priorities and clashing priorities, and the scenario is complex. But anyway, like so I have given you simple examples of how we can measure our own water footprint or water usage, to complex scenarios where the politics, the different actors, their priorities and clashing priorities are actually involved. So, I do not think we will be taking more questions. I will just address this last question by Poulomi again. So, Poulomi also wants access to the chapter on Chennai. Yes, I will be very happy to share the chapter with you. She has visited East Kolkata wetlands and interacted with them, finished lecture 19. Thank you. I am very happy to know this, that you have interacted with the fishers and you have yourself visited the East Kolkata wetland. Please, I will definitely encourage you to be in touch with me if you want some further information, and if you want to also share your experience, because I also want to know your perspectives. So, I will be very happy to exchange with you over phone or email, or we can have email exchanges. All my details are available at the institute website, my phone number, my email ID, everything, and of course, there is this forum. So, let us get in touch and discuss more about East Kolkata wetlands and many other issues that you are interested about. And thank you all for asking these questions, and I very much hope that to an extent I am being able to fulfill your quest of knowledge about this complex but inherently or intricately intertwined relationship between water, society and sustainability, which is so crucial for all of us to understand in this particular era, because we really need to collectively understand complex systems, and let us all get engaged, not involved, but engaged into this journey of making this venture extremely exciting, but also we have to do it very sincerely. And one of you asked me that, like, what kind of change it can have on us after we finish this course. So I would be very happy, it would be a blessing for me if, like, this course to a great extent can trigger your ideas and your perspectives, where you can understand that this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, and this journey would go on for at least next 2 decades in your life, until you come up with some innovative theories or frameworks or solutions relating to water society relation, but also not only restricted to this, relating to the ecological scene or the ecological challenges of the present era. Okay, so the final question is by Jai Krishna Reddy. He is talking about alternative for sugarcane to produce sugar, as it is a water intensive crop. Yes. So, this is a technical question. I will not be able to provide an answer to this, but definitely, like, we have to change our agrarian practices from crops which are more water intensive to crops which are less water intensive, because, like, as I have told you, that we have already reached the kind of period or era where the earth is rapidly transgressing the planetary boundaries. So, definitely we have to come up with alternative about how we can think about less water intensive crop, and I do not know, like, how sugar can be manufactured other than from getting sugar from sugarcane, because this is really a very technical question, but maybe I can get back to you by seeking some answers from our agricultural department. And I am sure that some innovative practices must be there. Some innovative practices are being pursued in some villages through which they are trying to definitely control this water intensiveness. So, yes. So, Polomi also suggests that sugar beet is an alternative option. So, I am not very sure, I do not know, I really do not know the production mechanism of I mean, how sugarcane is produced, and I mean, sugar beet and sugar. So, this I am not familiar with this complex dialectics between sugarcane sugar and sugar beet, but yes. So, this alternative of how we can switch to sugar beet maybe can be a viable option, but definitely my answer would be this. Maybe I will also myself check or myself try to learn from some of the case studies about what they are trying to do with crops, what farmers, largely farmers, are trying to do with crops that are water intensive. So, is there some kind of a switch or transformation to other kinds of less water intensive crop, but then how does it address the particular problem of the production which is related to particular crops like sugarcane, which is again a commercially viable cash crop. So, I will try to learn. So, this is a eye opening question on which right now I do not have an answer, but this, I think, like, this is an important question in the sense that when I would be trying to see the case studies or learn from the case studies, this will not only remain restricted to sugarcane, but also to other commercially viable crops which otherwise generate a lot of profit, but which also has a lot of has greater water footprints. So, what are being practiced at different corners of the world to strike a balance between this water intensiveness and the production of these commercially viable crops. I will see this and get back to you. So, thank you all, and please keep please continue flooding us with questions, and not only questions, but also continue flooding us with your comments and feedback, your experiences, your case studies, your stories, from where we will be able to learn, and from where we will be able to come up with and also forge new perspectives. So, let us keep exchanging, and let this journey not be not get into an end after the course gets completed, but let us just let us think that we have embarked upon a journey, and this is just the beginning, and we will keep continuing as far as our overlapping interest on water society and sustainability remains retained. Thank you all. কে লিখেছে এটা? সবাই।